Hello, everyone. My name is Paul Son, and I'm here with Caleb Suko, who is a missionary who's serving in Ukraine with his wife, Christina. So I'm really excited to meet you, Caleb, because you and I have been vlogging and interacting, and it's great to see you in person, and I have some questions for you.
Okay, sure.
All right, so can you kind of tell us about your background and how it has led you into being a missionary today?
Right. Yeah. Well, I never really thought I'd be a missionary, and for sure never thought I'd be a missionary in Ukraine. But it's just interesting. The Lord leads you sometimes in ways that you don't expect.
Right.
And my first trip to Ukraine was in 1994. That I went with my dad just to help do a building project, and thought I'd never really go back, But then when I went to Bible college, I thought I'll go to Bible college for a year, kind of get a little biblical education under my belt. Figured that would be good. And then I met there my wife-to-be at that time, Christina, who's Ukrainian.
Right.
And so we got married like 9 months after we met. And then, I just had to visit my in-laws because they were in Ukraine. And so started visiting, and, it was a process of probably about 5 or 6 years where the Lord slowly worked in my heart, my wife's heart, where we realized that not only was God giving us a desire to go and serve in Ukraine, but it was also a practical thing, and there were needs there that we could fulfill and that God could use us in. So just over the years, my wife and I just came to that really clear understanding that God was calling us to go back to Ukraine.
So as a missionary, do you hear a lot about kind of myths that people have around being a missionary, and can you maybe kind of dispel some of those myths?
I think that there's a couple that I've noticed. One is that missionary is sort of like a super Christian type of a person, and you don't have to be in the mission field very long to realize that's just not true.
Right.
Missionaries are just like everyone else. We have the same problems, things like family, and just your basic issues in life can be problems for missionaries too. And so they're really not on whatever that, kind of higher spiritual plane. And also, the other maybe myth that sometimes I've seen is that people think that you can't really serve God unless you're a missionary, unless you're like full-time vocational ministry. And honestly, like even in Ukraine where we work, like most of the guys that we work with, most of the pastors, they're not full-time vocational ministers. And I have seen people who've had great impact on the church, on bringing people to the Lord, who are not full-time missionaries, not full-time ministers. The importance is that you have your heart in the right place and that you're serving the Lord in whatever vocation you're in.
That's great. So I know that in your current role, you do a lot of leadership development, building the next generation of leaders. Can you tell us what are you doing to grow yourself as a leader, and how are you trying to build the next generation of leaders in Ukraine?
Yeah, we have an institute there in Ukraine where we train leaders in local churches. And one thing that I often tell people is that, listen, if I'm going to be training people in the local church, that means I have to be involved and active in my local church.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that I try to do an example. And I know it's not just an example, it's the way that I grow too, is being involved and an integral part of my own local church. And so I see that as a big area where I grow, is just in my local church. And then beyond that, I try to keep up on reading and newer books that come out, as well as I kind of like some of the classics, like C.S. Lewis and some of those guys, and then newer books like maybe Timothy Keller. Like I know you read him a little bit too. So try to keep up on some of those, and I'm really glad that we're now in an age where I can get my books on, ebooks, because to order books and have them sent to Ukraine takes a while.
Right.
So reading and fellowship in the local church, and then just my daily personal time with the Lord are things that are really important to me.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Caleb, for taking your time and
All right, you're
sharing
welcome.
your thoughts. Appreciate it.